Alright, page 205, Tao of Jeet. Questions or comments you can ask or provide. It's just a name. There is a powerful craving in most of us to see ourselves as instruments in the hands of others and thus free ourselves from the responsibility for acts which are prompted by our own questionable inclinations and impulses. Both the strong and the weak grasp at this alibi. The latter hide their maleficence under the virtue of obedience. The strong, too, claim absolution by proclaiming themselves the chosen instruments of a higher power, God, history, fate, nation, or humanity. Similarly, we have more faith in what we imitate than in what we originate. We cannot derive a sense of absolute certitude from anything which has its roots in us. The most poignant sense of insecurity comes from standing alone, and we are not alone when we imitate. It is thus with most of us, we are what other people say we are. We know ourselves chiefly by hearsay. To become different from what we are, we must have some awareness of what we are. Whether this being different results in dissimulation or a real change of heart, it cannot be realized without self-awareness. Yet it is remarkable that the very people who are most self-dissatisfied, who crave most for a new identity, have the least self-awareness. They have turned away from an unwanted self and hence never had a good look at it. The result is that most dissatisfied people can either dissimulate nor attain a real change of heart. They are transparent and their unwanted qualities persist through all attempts at self-dramatization and self-transformation. It is the lack of self-awareness which renders us transparent. The soul that knows itself is opaque. Fear comes from uncertainty. When we are absolutely certain whether of our worth or our worthlessness, we are almost impervious to fear. Thus, a feeling of utter unworthiness can be a source of courage. Everything seems possible when we are absolutely helpless or absolutely powerful, and both states stimulate our gullibility. Pride is a sense of worth derived from something that is not organically part of us, while self-esteem is derived from the potentialities and achievements of self. We are proud when we identify ourselves with the imaginary self, a leader, a holy cause, a collective body, or possessions. There is fear and intolerance in pride. It is sensitive and uncompromising. The less promise and potentiality in the self, the more imperative it is the need for pride. The core of pride is self-rejection. It is true, however, that when pride releases energies and serves as a spur to achievement, it can lead to reconciliation with self and the attainment of genuine self-esteem. Secretiveness can be a source of pride. It is a paradox that secretiveness plays the same role as boasting. Both are engaged in the creation of a disguise. Boasting tries to create an imaginary self, while secretiveness gives us the exhilarating feeling of being princes disguised in meekness. Of the two, secretiveness is the more difficult and effective. For the self-observant, boasting breeds self-contempt. Yet it is, as Spinoza said, men govern nothing with more difficulty than their tongues, and they can moderate their desires more than their words. Humility, however, is not verbal renunciation of pride, but the substitution of pride for self-awareness and objectivity. Forced humility is false pride. A fateful process is set in motion when the individual is released to the freedom of his own impotence and left to justify his existence by his own efforts. The individual on his own, striving to realize himself and prove his worth, has created all that is great in literature, art, music, science, and technology. This autonomous individual also, when he can neither realize himself nor justify his existence by his own efforts, is a breeding ground of frustration and the seed of the convulsion that shakes our world to its foundations. The autonomous individual is stable only so long as he is possessed of self-esteem. The maintenance of self-esteem is a continuous task which taxes all of the individual's power and inner resources. We have to prove our worth and justify our existence anew each day. When, for whatever reason, self-esteem is unattainable, the autonomous individual becomes a highly explosive entity. He turns away from an unpromising self and plunges into the pursuit of pride, the explosive substitute for self-esteem. All social disturbances and upheavals have their roots in crisis of individual self-esteem, and the great endeavor in which the masses most readily unite is basically a search for pride. So we acquire a sense of worth either by realizing our talents, or by keeping busy, or by identifying ourselves with something apart from us. Be it a cause, a leader, a group, possessions, or whatnot, the path of self-realization is the most difficult. It is taken only when other avenues to a sense of worth are less or more or less blocked. Men of talent have to be encouraged and goaded to engage in creative work. Their goans and laments echo through the ages. Action is a high road to self-confidence and esteem. Where it is open, all energies flow toward it. It comes readily to most people, and its rewards are tangible. The cultivation of the spirit is elusive and difficult, and the tendency toward it is rarely spontaneous, whereas the opportunities for action are many.
What is action?
Action is a high road to self-confidence and esteem. Where it is open, all energies flow toward it. It comes readily to most people, and its rewards are tangible. The cultivation of the spirit is elusive and difficult, and the tendency toward it is rarely spontaneous, whereas the opportunities for action are many. The propensity to action is symptomatic of an inner unbalance. To be balanced is to be more or less at rest. Action is at the bottom, a swinging and flailing of the arms to regain one's balance and keep afloat. And if it is true, as Napoleon wrote to Carnot, the art of government is not to let men grow stale. Then it is an art of unbalancing. The crucial difference between a totalitarian regime and a free social order is perhaps in the methods of unbalancing by which their people are kept active and striving.
That would be not Korea. No, I'm just thinking the authoritarian society. It will be North Korea, kind of like Venezuela or Cuba, kind of like where there's a lot of dictatorship and supreme power from the government.
Basically saying, if you want to be balanced, you gotta be at rest. And you keep having all this action, you're gonna be unbalanced. But the government wants you to be in action because it benefits them, it benefits the economy. They don't want you to be in balance. We are told that talent creates its own opportunities. Yet it sometimes seems that intense desire creates not only its own opportunities, but its own talents as well. The times of drastic change are times of passions. We can never be fit and ready for that which is wholly new. We have to adjust ourselves, and every radical adjustment is a crisis in self-esteem. We undergo a test. We have to prove ourselves. A population subjected to drastic change is thus a population of misfits, and misfits live and breathe in an atmosphere of passion. That we pursue something passionately does not always mean that we really want it or have a special aptitude for it. Often the thing we pursue most passionately is but a substitute for the one thing we really want and cannot have. It is usually safe to predict that the fulfillment of an excessively cherished desire is not likely to still our nagging anxiety. In every passionate pursuit, the pursuit counts more than the object pursued. Our sense of power is more vivid when we break a man's spirit than when we win his heart. For we can win a man's heart one day and lose it the next, but when we break a proud spirit, we achieve something that is final and absolute. It is compassion rather than the principle of justice which can guard us against being unjust to our fellow men. It is doubtful whether there is such a thing as impulsive or natural tolerance. Tolerance requires an effort of thought and self-control. Acts of kindness, too, are rarely without deliberation and thoughtfulness. Thus, it seems that some artificially, some posing and pretense is inseparable from any act or attitude which involves a limitation of our appetites and selfishness. We ought to be aware of people who do not think it necessary to pretend that they are good and decent. Lack of hypocrisy in such things hints at a capacity for more depraved ruthlessness. Pretense is often an indispensable step in the attainment of genuineness. It is a form into which genuine inclinations flow and solidify. The control of our being is not unlike the combination of a safe. One turn of the knob rarely unlocks the safe. Each advance and retreat is a step toward one's final achievement. Jeet Kune is not to hurt, but is one of the avenues through which life opens its secrets to us. We can see through others only when we can see through ourselves, and Jeet Kune is a step toward knowing oneself. Self-knowledge is the basis of Jeet Kune because it is effective not only for the individual's martial art, but also for his life as a human being. Learning Jeet Kune Do is not a matter seeking knowledge or accumulating stylized pattern, but is discovering the cause of ignorance. If people say Jeet Kune Do is different from this or from that, then let the name of Jeet Kune Do be wiped out, for that is what it is, just a name. Please don't fuss over it. And that's the completion of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Finished it today. So it's officially, we read this book in this school.